Brothers and sisters, misses and misters, welcome back to the Dented Can show. My name is Dobie Maxwell. This is my partner, Max Bumgardner, and we are here for another episode of many, and we're going to talk about today's episode, the A word. You always hear people talk about the F word and all the words.
Right.
The C word, the N word. We have our own words that are sometimes triggers. Today, it's the A word.
And that A word means anger.
Yeah.
Anger.
I think, and you said this best, and a dented can home is an angry home.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think anybody that can relate to the things that we talk about, we're around it. Angry father, angry mother, step parents especially. That's a whole other thing, but anger is the key.
That will be S in the alphabet, Dobie.
Yes,
as we go through the alphabet.
We got plenty of, for a lot of letters, for a lot of
my
problems.
stepmother, who, by the way, just as a little tease for when we get there, I went to high school with my stepmother. That's all I'm going to tell you. That episode's coming.
Coming future episodes. And I prayed for my stepmother's slow and painful death as a child, and I got it.
Oh.
And I felt as bad as a human being can feel.
Save it for that episode.
Save it for that
Let's
episode.
get back to anger.
That's
and
it.
how you prayed for that sort of thing is because you are angry. Mm-hmm. Are you still angry?
I am losing my anger and facing inward, which is a hard thing to do, and that's why this episode is so difficult, because it's something that we are bathed in. It is around us from our earliest memories, and that is part of our DNA, and it's hard to lose that. But as hard as I can work, and with your help, and with the help of a lot of other sources, I am losing my anger, and I think you are too, as you get older.
My anger has affected a lot of my relationships. It's shaped how not only I'm viewed, but it's shaped how I view myself. It's interesting that when you get angry at somebody, you're looking at them with laser sharp focus. But when you look at yourself, it's all rose-colored glasses. Isn't that amazing? That's the trick of anger, and it's wrong. It really is wrong. So if you're able to walk into the courtroom instead of as the judge, but as the lowest person among you in the court and the most humble, then you can see, rather than focusing on somebody else, you can see that you yourself need to dial it back a little bit, turn it down and back, and lower the expectations. Lower the expectations. Our expectations are so high. Angry people have incredibly high expectations of others. That's the one thing that I've come to grips with even lately, you know? Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about myself when I'm angry. I'm thinking about what that person did to me. Right? If you really think about that, you're thinking about what that person did to you. That's what makes you angry. Think about the last time you got angry. I mean, what was it?
It was 5 minutes ago, Max. No,
okay.
It wasn't. I'm kidding about that, but I'm not kidding, because sometimes it comes to a point where there is. Let me ask you this first. What is the difference between anger and rage? Do you think there is one?
I do. I think for me, rage is out of control anger. That's what I think rage is. I think it's to the point where you're not. I mean, I think it's fairly normal for a human to get angry, you know. But I think how you express it is unbelievably wrong when it gets to rage. I mean, that's just, you can't do that, and I'm guilty of it.
I like to look at it as the anger is a constant bubbling of a volcano. Rage is when the volcano erupts.
Okay.
And the eruption of the volcano does a lot of damage, but it comes from a certain place. So I think the constant anger, and you're right, it is justified that anger is an emotion that we all. Jesus was angry. In the Bible, he went and tipped over the sellers, you know, the booths of the sellers. And I think, you know, he had a justified reason, and we have justified reasons, but when it's there 24/7 and it pops. I had an uncle that I thought was a good guy, and in later years he turned out to be a scoundrel. It was my father's brother. And in traffic, there was a rage with him, and we all get cut off in traffic, and we all get upset about it, and you might make a gesture or do something, but he would follow him for miles and yell and scream, and veins popping out of his neck and threaten to kill somebody. And it's like, geez, okay, over a bad lane change? Really? Even as a small child, I thought, this is out of control. There's a problem here. And the rage, I think, is what causes crimes and murders. And, you know, you look back at O.J. Simpson. There was some rage there. I don't know what he was angry about, but holy Christmas. You know, your wife doesn't make your mashed potatoes the right way. You don't cut her head off.
Well, and you know, that's assuming that it's a 1950s household, because maybe I make the mashed potatoes
that's
for
true
my
too.
wife.
Don't
mean
to be sexist.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, here's the deal with that though. Even with your uncle, it's not the traffic.
Right. That's the whole point.
It's not the traffic.
No.
It wasn't the traffic when he got in his car and started the car.
Nope.
It wasn't that. So there's something that I feel like anger bubbles up, to use your term,
Yes.
from a place that's, it's simmering all the time. It's real close to the top. But what's causing the anger? I really do think it's expectations of others and how I think you're focused on yourself. I really do. I think that when you're really angry, you're only focused on yourself. You're not focused outwardly. At least for me, that's been the big, huge discovery in all the journaling, all the reading, is that when I'm getting really, really angry, if I dial back what it is or really look at what it is, it's because I'm thinking of me. Really, I'm thinking of me. Because I wanted a person to do something a certain way.
You have expectations of them.
Expectations.
And they don't meet those expectations.
And they don't meet it, and then you're ready.
Do they know what the expectations are? That's another thing, too.
Well, hell no, they don't. Just like the driver that's looking, that your uncle's long gone. But I mean, back in the day, maybe they were, in Milwaukee, they were looking for the radio station that they wanted. They weren't paying attention. They kind of pulled in front of him. Is that worth killing somebody over?
Well, no, that's the thing. And can you honestly say that you haven't been the person on the radio and made the lane change yourself? People have so unfair expectations.
I
of
was
other
the
people.
person on the radio with you, by the way.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
And our show was so entertaining that people had to make the lane
Yeah,
change.
that's exactly.
I think, too, and as I get older, and one of the things that has made me less angry is, okay, this person could be having a bad day. They did something that angered me. I'll let it go this time. And there are some times when it just catches you at the wrong time, and life is all about timing.
I think that's triggers. We talked a little bit about triggers.
That's the T word.
And I think that could be the T word, absolutely, right behind stepmothers. So, and then of course you brought up the J word, which would be Jesus, and then we can slide for G, we could slide God in there too, so we can get a little double dose of that, because those are both fantastic topics.
And the H word is healing, and that's what this whole thing is about. Because if you don't talk about it, it bubbles up, and the bubbling gets more violent, and then the rage gets more violent.
Right.
You that are watching, you have things to be upset about too that we have no idea about. But anger is anger, rage is rage. Let's try to stop it. Would you not agree that the world is angrier now than it ever has been before?
Yeah.
I'm afraid to look at somebody the wrong way. They're just going to just flip, and that's no way. And that gets tight and tension. Release the tension. Take a chill pill. That's why we're here.
There are contributing factors to everybody's anger, and it's our responsibility to get it under control. And if you can't get it under control, I think that you need help.
Would you agree that things make us angry from different sources, and we tend to lump it all in one? So if you're angry about your parents not treating you well, or your boss didn't treat you well, and other things happen, then it's all, we can't sort it out. Well, this made me angry about that, and that upset me about that. It just becomes one big ugly blur.
I think so, yeah.
And it rots, and it festers, and it eats the inside of you, and it's not good. Now, you have done a lot of things personally, and I'm very proud of you for doing it, for releasing your anger. Now, what are those things that you do? One of them is exercise.
I exercise a lot, more than I ever have. I eat differently. I try to get a lot of sleep. I try to read. I love God. I know you're not a believer. We'll get into that.
Get into that later.
But I do. I very much do. I love the idea of forgiveness, and it's one of the
That's
things.
the F word.
That's the F word. We'll talk about that. I think that's a really, really key. I think that's key for anybody who struggles with anger. Because one of the things you just said when you said if it's a big ball of festering shit, basically, you said that you're still mad at maybe parents, how they treated you when you were a child.
When you're 5.
But it's back to you.
Yeah.
See, so it's back to you again, right?
Sure.
And so that's the thing that, for me, and I'm not diagnosing you or saying anything or to anyone on watching this channel.
We're not doctors and don't claim
No.
to be. We want to discuss it intelligently because they go, wow, maybe I have that too.
Yeah, but I really do think that when you take the focus off yourself, hard to do when you're a kid.
Impossible to do.
Because when you're a kid, you can't separate yourself from yourself. I mean, you can't look at yourself objectively like you're looking down into a room at yourself.
It's your only
you don't
point of
have
reference.
That ability,
Nope,
right?
true. Yep.
So everything's outward. So it is somebody, when you're a child, somebody is making you feel bad. The difference is when you are aware that no one has the power to make you feel bad. When you're aware of that, and you strengthen that muscle, it does get better. It really does get better. Am I going to look you in the face or sit here on YouTube and say, nothing can make me angry? No way, because things can. But it's getting so much better. It's getting so much harder. You and I had an experience today before we taped this at a restaurant.
We went to breakfast, and the restaurant happened to be full, and we would have had to wait a few minutes, and just the person in charge was smug and smarmy, and just we both noticed it, and it's like, well, if you don't want to wait, you're missing the best breakfast in town, and blah, 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 blah. And again, that was kind of maybe all about her or about them, and we decided, you know what? We're not going to be in the stress. We're going to turn around, walk away. We had a nice breakfast, and we backed away from it. And we avoided what I know would have been a scene, because I'm a smartass. I've been a smartass my whole life, and especially as a comedian, you have to really defend yourself.
Yeah, well, you're a ninja with
and I'm not proud of that. And people would call me the razor on stage. They said, you know, you're a very nice guy, and everybody likes you off stage. But when you get on stage and some heckler's there, we just back up, and you're a different guy up there. And then it got to the point where I had such a reputation for it. Some club I worked, it was in Buffalo, New York. I'll never forget it. Dobie's ability to vanquish hecklers is legendary. I'll never forget that sentence. And he put it on the marquee, you know, on the poster outside the club. So that just brought people out.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like
a challenge.
It's like Mike Tyson going into the bar. People want to pick a fight with him.
Sure.
Oh, I'm tougher than you.
Right.
Oh, so people get a couple of pops in him and start heckling, and I'd be zapping them all over the room. I don't want to do that. Then my comedian friends would say, oh, I pulled a Dobie the other day. Yeah, I flipped out on somebody. And oh, that hurts me, Max. It really does, because it's like, you know, you have this big bravado, braggadocio, I can handle anybody on stage. That's a defense mechanism. People say, man, you ripped that heckler to shreds. I wasn't caring about the heckler. That was my father I was ripping. You know what I'm saying? It got to the point where it was
another F word
father, and I was getting my revenge at him and the bully. There's a B word right there, and I didn't really know about that what I was doing until after years of it, and I had got such a reputation. To this day, people say, "Oh, your act is funny, but when you flip out on somebody, you are on another level." And I cringe, and I'm embarrassed, and I'm ashamed. So that's why we bring this up. We're not perfect. Nobody is. Let's talk our way through it and have a positive ending. What's our positive ending, Max, for anger?
Well, what I'd like to do is encourage you, if you aren't, to exercise. I know that sounds like just unbelievably lazy advice, but it is so good for you. It is so good for your soul. Exercise, even if it's a block, you know, one block around where you live, do it every single day. I try to do it before I go to work. So I'm into this groove now where I can't face the world until I exercise. I just can't. And I know that if I skip one day, the biometrics are off the whole day. If I skip one day, that's how powerful it is for me.
You created that habit, and it's a positive habit, and
Yeah.
it took a long time to do it. And you didn't start off. Max, he doesn't want to say this because he's proud, and I'm proud of him doing it. He rode his bike across the state of Iowa. Not the short way, the long way. And that's very, very
Not the
impressive.
short way.
Not the short way. And I'm very impressed by that. And you worked your way up to it. And it's not to say, like, you go to one time, that, as we record this, it's early January. You know, New Year's resolution, I'm going to the gym. Then you go for 3 hours, and you're sore, and you can't get up for 4 days, and then you stop doing it.
Yeah.
It's got to be baby steps. You crawl before you walk, before you run. We are the Dented Cans. Thank you for joining us.